The city of Zafira shimmered beneath a golden sky, its sandstone towers and alabaster domes catching the dying light of day. Minarets pierced the clouds like fingers of judgment, and the scent of cardamom and rosewater floated through the narrow alleyways, winding toward the great palace that crowned the hill. Inside that palace, behind carved cedar doors and heavy silk curtains, Layla bint Khalid sat still as a statue. Her hands, hennaed in delicate spirals of crimson, rested in her lap. She wore a gown of deep sapphire silk, embroidered with threads of pure gold. Her hair, usually free and wild like the desert wind, had been tamed into a cascade of black waves, studded with pearls. She looked like a bride carved from moonlight, and she hated it. "My lady," whispered Nura, her favorite handmaiden, adjusting her veil. "He is arriving." Layla's lips curled. "Let him come. I will not smile for a man who bought me." Nura flinched, casting a glance at the door. "If your father hears you—" "My father sold me to the enemy. I no longer care what he hears." A gong sounded in the hall beyond, low, resonant, ominous. Her father, Khalid the Just, who ruled Zafira with both velvet and iron, had arranged this marriage to seal peace with his greatest rival, Sharif of Al-Marid, a man whose name was spoken in whispers, or so Layla had thought, until the proposal came not from Sharif but his son, Rami ibn Sharif. Layla had never seen him. Rumor said he was cruel, forged in his father's image, that he had burned villages at 16, that he had never smiled. What made it all the worse that Sharif and his son were dark-skinned, and his son was rumored to have skin as dark as night. It was an attribute deeply despised by her father, and she had heard him declare his enemy cursed for stealing trade routes and double cursed for being beneath him with his lily-white skin. The door swung open. The scent of oud and myrrh followed Khalid as he entered, regal in a white bisht with black trim, his beard groomed, eyes unreadable. He was not alone. Rami walked beside him, tall and silent. His robes were dark, midnight with silver accents. No jewels, no weapon. His brilliant eyes glittered from a face that was half shadowed by the hood of his abba, but Layla saw enough. He was as dark as they said he was. "My daughter," Khalid said, spreading his hands like a merchant offering spices. "Behold the man who has chosen you, Rami ibn Sharif, son of my former enemy. Today the past dies and unity is born." Layla stood. Her voice was ice wrapped in silk. "Unity? Is that what you call it when you toss me to a man you despise?" Khalid's jaw tightened. "Watch your tongue. I will watch nothing but my own fate, which you have traded like a carpet in the souk." Rami finally met her gaze. There was something arresting in his expression. She realized in that moment that she perhaps had more to fear from this man than from her father. "Your father," Rami said, his voice low and even, "believes peace can be bought. I agreed to this marriage because I believe otherwise." Layla's eyes narrowed. "Then why agree at all?" "Because a cage made of gold is still a cage, and not everyone inside it is weak." Khalid stepped between them. "Enough of this riddled talk. You will be married in 3 days. The ceremony will be the greatest Zafira has seen in a decade. Now go, prepare yourselves." Layla bowed stiffly, not out of respect but ritual. Then she turned and walked from the room, her slippers silent on the marble. That night, in the harem's garden, where jasmine and fig trees tangled beneath a velvet sky, Layla sat beside a silver pool, her reflection shattered by the ripple of a koi. Nura appeared again, bearing pomegranate juice in a goblet carved with moonstones. "You could have said less," she said gently. "I could have screamed," Layla replied. "But I was raised in a palace. We suffer in silence, don't we?" Nura kneeled beside her. "He is as dark as sin, it is true, and frightening. But towards you he didn't seem cruel. Perhaps he will treat you different from what people say." Layla let out a breath. "He didn't look at me like a possession. That is, new." She dipped her fingers into the pool, watching the koi dart away from the sudden disturbance. "I don't trust him," she continued, "but I despise my father more. But your father only wants peace. No, he wants power, and I am the ribbon on his sword." Above them, the stars began to bloom. In the guest chamber across the palace, Rami stood alone, looking out over the city. The soft music of flutes floated from the garden. He did not smile. He remembered Layla's fire, unexpected and fierce. She was definitely not the silken doll he'd imagined. His father had rejected the offer of marriage for the same reason that Khalid had offered it. He wanted conquest, he wanted power, and he knew his rival thought he and his kind were beneath him. But Rami, his heir, had agreed to it with foresight that his father did not have. But now that he had met his bride, he wondered if his plans would go as smoothly as he had laid them out. He had not expected her spirit. Act 2. Unexpected connection. The caravan moved at dawn. Layla, veiled in indigo and gold, sat atop a palanquin draped with embroidered silks, carried by 4 muscular guards. Her father had insisted on a show of wealth. She felt like a treasure being paraded, not a bride being sent to her new life. Rami rode ahead, his black horse adorned with silver tack, his posture straight and unreadable as always. Their journey wound through the palm dunes of Sahir, where wind-swept sands whispered secrets and desert foxes darted beneath crimson skies. As they traveled, Layla peeked from behind her veil, watching Rami. Always alert, always distant, never once looking back at her. It was 2 days before the caravan reached House of the Moon, an ancestral estate hidden in the cliffs of Al-Qamar Valley. Unlike her father's palace of marble and sharp edges, this place breathed softness. Carved sandstone courtyards, olive trees in bloom, domed roofs with sapphire tiles. Jasmine climbed the arches, and bronze lanterns cast golden patterns on the stone at twilight. Inside, Layla was led to her new quarters, an airy chamber lined with mosaics of bluebirds and almond trees. She touched the cushions, the tapestries, the low brass tray with figs and rosewater-scented dates. It was warm, welcoming. She wondered in confusion why Rami had married her. Surely it was for political expediency, and not for love? That night, another wedding ceremony was held under the stars, a private ceremony, as was custom in the House of the Moon. A Qadi spoke blessings while Layla and Rami sat opposite each other on silk cushions, separated by a sheer veil. The contract was recited. The bride price had already been paid, a jeweled pendant once belonging to Rami's mother, offered without ceremony. Layla signed without flinching. When the Qadi asked if she accepted the marriage, her voice was steady. "I do." And so it was done. In the days that followed, Layla expected silence, cold formality. A husband who would keep his distance, or worse, claim his rights. Instead, Rami kept to his library and study halls, poring over maps and books. At dinner, he joined her silently. He never touched her, never even brushed her sleeve. And when she looked at him with wary eyes, he looked back, but said nothing. Until one night, weeks after the exchange of vows, everything changed. Layla had wandered into the moon garden, drawn involuntarily by the sound of soft music that called to her soul into a private courtyard surrounded by lemon trees and marble benches. She needed air. She didn't expect to find Rami, seated beneath an olive tree, plucking soft notes from an old oud, the lute-shaped instrument of poets. All she had learned about the dark-skinned people was that they were a barbaric race, fighters and grabbers. Nothing in her education had prepared to find the soft roundness of their dwelling places, the comfort of their manners, or now, music. "You play?" she said softly. He looked up, startled, then nodded. "Not well," he said, "but it calms me." There was something in his voice tonight, not cold, contemplative, almost human. Layla stepped forward. "You surprise me, because I do not chain you to a wall? Because you have not spoken more than 10 words to me since we were wed." He placed the oud beside him. "I speak when I am certain I will be heard." She tilted her head. "When will I be made to meet your other wives?" "In my culture, a man takes only one wife. It is said that the trouble of 2 is more than a man can bear." "Is that the way of all your people?" she asked in surprise. "A man may take as many women as he pleases, but he will not be considered sensible." "And you wasted your choice on me?" He looked at her calmly. "That is yet to be seen." That stilled her. For a long moment, there was only the rustle of the olive leaves. Then she sat beside him. "I used to think silence was a prison," she said. "Now I wonder if it's a shield." He looked at her then, truly looked. "A shield can also become a weapon, if you know how to hold it." She smiled, despite herself. "You speak in riddles, Rami ibn Sharif." He returned the smile. Small, unexpected, sincere. "And you, Layla bint Khalid, speak like someone who is ready to learn them." That night, for the first time, they walked through the hidden gardens together. The paths glowed with fireflies, and the fountains whispered verses of forgotten poets. They spoke of everything but war and fathers, of almond milk and childhood dreams, of constellations shaped like lovers and monsters. Rami showed her a star he had named after his mother. Layla told him about her secret love of calligraphy and the verses of Rabia al-Adawiyya, the Sufi poetess who spoke of divine love. Their hands brushed once by accident. Neither pulled away. The months passed. In Zafira, Layla had been watched, restrained, guarded. Here, she was given space. Rami never forced closeness, but when she entered a room, he stood. When she read, he brought her tea. When she mentioned a verse she missed from her books at home, he found it for her, hand-copied. She was beginning to see the man beneath the skin. Not her father's enemy. Not a barbarian worthy only of her scorn, but a human who, like her, had been shaped by politics from birth. Then came the night of the eclipse. The sky turned blood red, as was foretold in old stories, omens of change. The servants gathered in prayer. The musicians played haunting flutes from the towers, and Layla stood on the balcony wrapped in a deep red shawl. Rami joined her. "There is something you should know," he said, eyes on the red moon. "My father did not want this marriage. He intended to take your father's head, not his daughter." Layla turned, startled. "Then why?" "Because I saw a chance to stop the war. In Zafira they call you Rami, the bloody son of Sharif, the murderer." "All names well deserved, but that is not the way to build a nation. I want to unite the land. My ancestors came from a distant land across great waters, and it is said that even now they have not found rest. I would like to rest, Layla." He turned to her then, and for the first time, there was no distance between them. His hand found hers, deliberate, gentle. She did not pull away. "I want an end to war. I do not ask for your love," he said. "If you cannot give it." Layla looked up at him. "I can give it," she said, surprised to find that she meant it. He leaned forward. The kiss was gentle, and in the red shadow of the moon, a pact was born, not of blood or politics, but of trust, and love, slowly blooming in the silence. The peace between the houses of Khalid of Zafira and Sharif of Al-Ma'arid was a fragile embroidery, beautiful from afar, fraying at every stitch up close. It had been a year since Layla's wedding. 1 year since she had surrendered a name and a future, and found something better in return. But peace was never meant to last. They were in the map room of the House of the Moon, a domed chamber where stars and trade routes were carved into the ceiling like secrets. Layla stared at a series of red pins jabbed into a parchment map of the 7 provinces. "My father's expansion into the east, this wasn't just trade, was it?" "No," Rami said grimly. "It was conquest." He unrolled a scroll, a list of alliances her father had struck in recent years. Marriages arranged, governors blackmailed, villages silenced by force. At the bottom was something worse, a shipment log. Gold, art, women. Her stomach turned. "How did you get this?" "A merchant your father threatened in Al-Ma'arid. He ran straight to me, said he'd rather die under my sword than vanish under Khalid's." Layla's breath trembled. "And my father used me to seal that power." Rami's voice dropped. "Yes, but you're not a seal anymore. You're a dagger." That night, Layla slipped into the library's shadowed alcove wearing a hooded cloak dyed like desert twilight. "I want to help bring him down," she whispered. Rami studied her, truly studied her. "If we do this, we risk war. Your name, your safety, everything." She stepped closer. "He traded me. He's already risked my safety, and what I had before was not everything. It was nothing." He reached for her hand, and so their secret alliance began. By day, they played the part of calm newlyweds, walking the gardens, attending local courts, meeting merchants. Layla laughed, smiled, offered sweet tea. Rami debated trade laws and invited diplomats to supper, but by night, they became something else entirely. Their first mission was in the bazaar of Whispering Saffron, a chaotic sprawl of merchants and beggars, musicians and spice carts, hidden in the underbelly of Zafira's outer wall. Layla arrived draped in a merchant's robe, her face veiled with bronze netting. Rami wore a faded keffiyeh and carried no sword. They moved quickly, hand in hand, navigating shadows. Their contact was a former servant of Khalid, a eunuch named Kamar, who had disappeared after stealing from the treasury. Layla found him behind a lantern-maker's stall, arranging broken glass mosaics. "My lady," Kamar whispered, shocked. "I thought you were lost to the palace forever." "I was," she said, "but now I've found something better." She placed the scroll in his palm. A list of names. Governors, assassins, courtiers still loyal to her father. If you can confirm these, she said, we can cut Khalid off from every corner of his kingdom. Kamar bowed low. It will be done, for Zafira, and for you. The missions multiplied. Each night, Layla and Rami rode with a small crew of spies, loyal to neither house, only justice. They unmasked corrupt judges in the Opal province of Sidin. They exposed slave routes running beneath the silk caravans from the Sapphire Gulf. They even freed a scribe who had been imprisoned for forging the names. Khalid didn't want to appear on royal decrees. Layla began to write letters, threats, revelations. She sent anonymous messages to the press halls of the free provinces, stories about her father's hidden dungeons, names of girls taken and never returned. Soon the people began whispering, Khalid the Just is no just man. There is a ghost bride haunting his secrets. There is fire in the House of the Moon, but no war ends quietly. One night, Rami returned from a mission with blood on his sleeve and smoke in his eyes. They knew we were coming, he growled. A trap was set in the Black Palm Tavern. They knew my name. Layla's eyes widened. There's a leak? Worse, he said. There's a message. He tossed a velvet pouch onto the table. It spilled open. Inside was a ring. Her father's, the one he always wore. Gold, stamped with the sigil of Zafira, and beneath it, a single piece of parchment. Come home, daughter. Layla knew then Khalid had discovered the rebellion, and now he wanted her back. Whether to punish, manipulate, or kill her, she didn't know. So what do you think? She asked Rami. I think it is time to end your father's reign. Tomorrow I go with our allies to attack Khalid's palace. You would be unable to enter, my love. The battle would be fought outside the walls, and even if you are able to gain access, Khalid will trap you within his walls. Not if we go as your guards and palanquin bearers. She smiled her assent. Rami stepped toward her, fire in his eyes. But remember who he is. You will have to go in first in order to put him off balance. In that time before we make ourselves known, he'll try to break you. He'll try to charm you, then crush you like a pearl beneath his boot. I'll let him think he can, she said, but I won't break, not now. He stared at her for a long time. Then, slowly, he pulled a dagger from his belt, its hilt carved with the moon and flame. He placed it in her hand. For when words fail, she nodded once. And if I do not succeed, you will. And if I can't, he stepped closer, his voice low and fierce. Then I will set the palace on fire and pull you from the ash myself. The next day, Layla began her journey to Zafira, veiled in royal silks, armed with steel and secrets. She would face the man who made her a pawn, and she would return a queen. The gates of Zafira Palace loomed like the jaws of a beast, polished obsidian and gold. Layla dismounted slowly, her veil covering her face. The guards recognized her. They bowed, but warily, as if she were a ghost risen from the desert. She was led through halls she had once tiptoed as a girl, now dressed in the robes of a woman who had tasted freedom. Her father waited in the Hall of Lanterns, where golden domes filtered the sun into fire. He stood at the far end, arms open, beard freshly oiled, eyes gleaming like the merchant he truly was. Layla, he said, smiling, my desert flower returns. She didn't smile back. I return with thorns. His brow arched. You wound me. No, not yet. Silence fell. For a moment, the only sound was the soft rustle of her robes. You sent assassins after my husband, she said. I sent warnings. You bought governors, sold children, ruled through chains. I kept order, I preserved power, and I gave you a kingdom. You gave me a prison. Her voice rang like steel in the chamber. The guard stiffened. Khalid's smile faltered. You've been poisoned, he said, by Sharif's son, that boy. Taught me how to be free. She stepped forward, pulled from her sleeve a parchment. Here are the signatures of every province you thought loyal. They're not. Another parchment. Here are trade records, forged by your scribes, sent to the free press. Another. And here are the names of the women kidnapped and sold. She let the last parchment fall to the floor. It landed like a slap. Khalid's face darkened. You forget who I am. No, she said. I realize who you are. He lunged at her, grabbing her slender throat in both hands, and would have snapped it but for the cold steel he suddenly felt pressed into his. Around them, the guards drew their swords and pointed them at her. I don't want your blood, she whispered. I want your crown. Silence. Then a voice from the shadows. Let her speak. It was Kamar, flanked by Rami and a dozen nobles, witnesses, allies, eyes wide, swords drawn. Khalid blinked in surprise and confusion as he realized that he was surrounded and outmanned. "This is treason," Khalid spat. "No," Layla said. "This is justice." By nightfall, the palace was under new rule. Khalid was exiled to the outer desert to live under the sun he once ruled with cruelty. Layla stood on the high balcony, the wind lifting her veil. Rami joined her, his hand finding hers. Below, the people of Zafira lit lanterns and sang in the streets. A tyrant had fallen, but more importantly, a woman had risen. A year had passed. The city of Zafira no longer feared shadows. Markets buzzed with music, not whispers. Girls walked freely in the streets since the days of slave catchers were gone. The palace gardens bloomed again, but with jasmine and olive trees instead of cold marble statues. Lanterns glowed with colored glass. The people spoke of their queen as an ornament that had replaced a worthless rock. And beside her always was Rami, no longer her captor or her stranger, but her equal, her shield and compass. The man who had offered her choice instead of chains. They did not wear crowns often. Instead, they traveled to the provinces, to the coast, to the mountain villages long ignored. Together, they signed scrolls with new laws. Together, they knelt in desert tents to speak with shepherds and mystics. Together, they rebuilt what power had broken. One evening, under the same olive tree where they had first spoken in quiet honesty, Rami placed a hand on Layla's belly. Their child kicked softly. "A girl," she said, smiling. "A warrior." The end.
Hi, please click on the subscribe button and maybe leave a comment. Thanks.